You can make friends and build a thriving social life without spending any money. It does make it a little easier if you spend some money, I'll acknowledge that. But if you're on a budget, if you're trying to cut down on your expenses, if you just don't have any extra cash available, you don't have to press pause on your social life. You can build a thriving social life with awesome experiences, with great friends, without spending any money. And I promise I'm not going to sign you up for some kind of pyramid scheme. I'm just going to give you some strategies for how you can engage in fulfilling social interactions that don't require you to spend much, sometimes even any money. So I want to lay a little bit of groundwork before we get into that, though, because when you're trying to make friends, there's really two things that you need to be accomplished. The first thing is you need to meet people that have the potential to be your friends. You need to connect with folks, make an initial interaction with them that's positive, kind of lay a foundation that might encourage you to then deepen the relationship down the road. And then the second step is that you actually have to deepen the relationship. You have to spend additional time with them. You have to invest in that relationship, show them that you're interested, go deeper. And on both of those domains, finances can often create a huge barrier. I'm a clinical psychologist, so I work with lots of people who are struggling with their friendships. And one of the things that I commonly hear is, I just don't know how to meet people without spending money that I really don't have. There's a lot of advice out there, and it's decent advice, but there's advice that says, okay, well, if you want to make friends, go and take a class, go and sign up for a gym, go and visit all the happy hours at your local bars. And these are things that, you will meet people if you do these things, but if you're working on a budget, these things are not accessible to you, right? And so you can feel really stuck, or you can feel like you have to choose between your social goals and your financial goals. And again, the good news, you do not have to choose. If you don't want to spend money, you don't have to. And you can have free or very low cost opportunities, both to do that first step of meeting people and to do that second step of growing the relationship and getting closer to somebody else. So how do you actually do that? I don't want to beat around the bush any longer. I want to jump right into the actual strategies and techniques. I want to start with talking about how you can meet people and build that initial foundation of a friendship without spending any money. And I want to give you a couple of different strategies for that. The first strategy is to look for opportunities that are volunteer in nature, because nobody's going to ever charge you to show up and build a house for Habitat for Humanity or pick up a playground so it's clean for kids to play in. You might have a little expense in having to get there, but even if that's an issue for you, if you contact the organization, they'll probably find a way to have somebody carpool with you and bring you to the event and then back home afterwards. And it might not be quite as fun to go volunteer somewhere versus to have happy hour at a bar and party, or whatever the youth these days call it. But if you go to a social event that's focused on volunteering, one of the main benefits of that is that all the other people there have also chosen to spend their free time volunteering, trying to help somebody else, trying to make the world a better place. And so chances are you're going to encounter some people there who are kind and mature and open to connection, because why else would they choose to do that? And this goes double if you can find a volunteer event that is organized around a passion of yours. If you really love nature and you come to some volunteer event organized by an environmental group, you're going to find other people that are probably similar to you that also love nature. And those people are maybe going to be interested in some similar things. Maybe you all might want to go on a hike together later or something like that. And so that is your first opportunity, is looking for volunteer organizations. And one thing that I would say is, if you're not sure, the nice thing about doing all of these free things on the list is that it doesn't cost any money. So go ahead and just give it a try. And if you spend 20 minutes at the soup kitchen or whatever, you decide it's not for you, you can always leave. You don't have to come back. So find some volunteer things that you can just try out and see how that goes. The second thing that you can do to try to meet people and possibly form some new connections without spending any money is to just ask if you can get in to paid stuff for free. And certainly that's not going to work for everything, right? If you decide you want to go to a nightclub, no nightclub is going to say, sure, you can just come in free without paying a cover, or we'll give you all your drinks for free. They're a for-profit business. Um, they're not going to give you a discount. And a nightclub might be a challenging place to form a deep friendship anyway. But let's say there's an art class going on and you really want to participate. A lot of people that are teaching art classes, they're not doing that because they want to get rich. They're doing that because they love art and they want to share it with the world. And so if you reach out to them and you say, hey, I'd really love to participate in your class, but I just can't afford it. Or, my budget would only allow me to pay $20 for this. And I know that it's $100. Is there anything that we can do? Sometimes these sorts of things will be willing to give you some flexibility. They might offer you a discounted rate, or they might say, well, if you can, stay a little late and help us clean up, then we can let you in for free. I know it can feel a little scary to ask for help or to ask for a discount, but the good news is that if they say no, then you never have to talk to them again. So just send them an email, give a short explanation of the situation, let them know that you're willing to help out or do something else to qualify for the discount if that is in fact true of you, and then just see what happens. And I think you'll be surprised at how many places would be willing to let you in for free. The third way that you can meet people without spending any money whatsoever is to look for online communities. One of the easiest ways to do this is to look for communities organized around a game that you play, because if it's a multiplayer game, guaranteed there's going to be people that are gathering that they want to play that game together. One of the easiest ways to kind of discover that is to go look for the subreddit for that game or any other forum organized around that game. Oftentimes there will be some sort of looking for group post or section where you can say, hey, I'd really like to play this with people. Is there anybody out there that might want to play with me? If you're not really a gamer or you don't have any particular games in mind that you want to play, you might still want to experiment with this, but you could choose some games that are relatively chill and collaborative, where you don't have to be super skilled to still be able to play with other people, participate, have a good time. Something like Minecraft, for instance, gives the opportunity for people to all play together, and you're not competing with anybody. It's not a high stakes, high pressure kind of thing, but maybe you could join a server where people just build a castle together. And even if you're not the best gamer in the world, you could still help them collect stone or design an archway or something like that. And that's going to give an opportunity for you to talk with them and get to know other people. There's also plenty of online groups for things that are not related to video games. If you, again, go on Reddit and you look for the subreddit for different areas of interest, oftentimes the subreddit will host a Discord for that topic. So if you're really interested in crochet, for instance, there's probably a crochet Discord where you can join and you can talk to other people that like knitting little fuzzy animals or whatever people do, socks. I don't know what people do when they crochet stuff. Regardless, if that's what you're into, there's probably a community of other people that are into it. And even though you might initially join that community just to talk about cross stitching or whatever, I think that crochet and cross stitching are different things. So if I offend the crochet/cross stitch community, I apologize. Anyway, the point being, if you join one of these online groups, there will be an opportunity for you to start conversations just around the hobby. But then over time, there will be the chance to maybe get to know people. Maybe you see somebody else in the Discord frequently and you can strike up a conversation about more everyday life. So that can be your third opportunity, is to look for online groups, either gaming groups or groups organized around a hobby and an interest. And then the fourth way to find friends without paying any money is to reconnect with friends that you previously had, but you just kind of forgot about. This is something called Rust Friends. And basically, it's the idea of friends that you had in previous stages of your life that you just sort of lost contact with, you just sort of drifted apart from. And these are people that, you didn't have a conflict, you didn't have a disagreement, you would still enjoy spending time with them. You just haven't really talked to them for a while. And in this case, it's completely free. All you have to do is send them a little message. Say, hey, I've been thinking of you. Hey, would you like to get together sometime? And, they might not respond. Maybe too much time has passed, and that's okay. But oftentimes, if there's a friend, an old friend that you haven't talked to for a while, if you would welcome them reaching out to you out of the blue, then they would probably welcome you doing the same thing. So you can just sort of think about, is there anybody that I would like to hear from? And if so, I'm going to reach out to them. So, those are the strategies for how you can do that first step of meeting some people. But then, let's say you've met some people and you want to actually develop the friendship. You want to not just have somebody be the person that you see every once in a while at the Habitat for Humanity volunteer thing, but somebody that you can actually build a friendship with. How do you do that without spending any money? Well, the first thing is to look for what my family used to call no money fun. My parents, sometimes us kids would want to do something fun, and we'd be like, oh, like let's go to the theme park, let's go to McDonald's, let's go to the mall, because we're kids and we don't have to earn the money, so we want to do those things. And then my parents, wanting to be more frugal, would say, let's do no money fun. What are things that we can do that don't require us to spend any money? And so that might take the form of, let's all go to the park together and pack a little picnic. Let's go find a book off the shelf and read it together. Let's go act out a little play that we made up together. Looking for just different, fun, creative things that don't require any kind of investment. And obviously, that's going to be a little bit different for kids versus for adults, but you can bring in that same kind of philosophy to say, what is something that might be enjoyable to do that doesn't require any money whatsoever? And let me try to invite somebody to do that. Maybe there's a park that we could go walking in. Maybe there's a concert that is free to the public. Sometimes schools, their music departments will have classical music, and you can just sit down and listen to it. Maybe there's a board game that you own, and you can invite somebody over to play that board game together. Thinking of no money fun can sometimes be a way to invite somebody to connect with you without having to put that financial investment in. And you might feel a little self-conscious about this. You might think, oh, would people prefer to do something that's going to be expensive? But chances are people, if they want to hang out with you, they want to hang out with you. They can go do something expensive on their own. They can go buy that ticket to Disneyland on their own if they really want to. But if they are interested in a friendship with you, they're going to be interested in that friendship sort of no matter what. It doesn't really matter what the activity is, as long as it's not something uncomfortable. And so if you invite them to just go for a walk or do something casual like that, I think you'll be surprised how often they say yes. So that's the first thing, is to invite people to do no money fun together. The second thing is to do sort of a stone soup kind of situation. And this is an old parable or fairy tale, something like that. But there was this traveler that comes to a village, and he's like, I'm going to make a soup together, and everybody brings an ingredient, and he starts with just a stone because that's all he has. But then everybody else adds in, one little thing. Somebody adds in a carrot, somebody adds in a little bit of chicken, somebody adds in some seasoning, and pretty soon the whole village has this really wonderful soup that they've made. And so if you're sort of like, I really am limited in budget, well, there might be something that you could bring and contribute, and then something that someone else could bring and contribute. So you might try to do a little event where everybody brings something, and maybe some of those things cost money, some of those things don't, but all together it creates an enjoyable experience for people. So maybe one person's going to bring the snacks, one person's going to bring the board game, and maybe the person that brings the board game doesn't have to pay any incremental money, but they're still contributing. And so it allows for a good social event to happen. Or traditionally, if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons or a similar tabletop game, the tradition is that the game master who runs the game, they never have to contribute the snacks because they put the work into organizing the event. So that might be a thing that you could do. Try to put something together where, again, maybe other people have more ability to financially contribute, but then you're able to contribute in some other way. So that's the second way of doing stone soup, finding a way to contribute that allows other people to contribute. And then the third way to spend time with folks that doesn't require any real financial commitment is simply through planning phone calls with folks. I know that this is a weird thing in this day and age. People tend to prefer text messages or things like that. But sometimes just having a phone call without any of the distractions of, oh, I got to go somewhere or we got to do something, but just having the chance to kind of connect, that can sometimes be really meaningful. And this is not something that you can do right at the outset of a relationship, right? It tends to work better with people that you've already established a little bit of a connection with. But if it's somebody that you've established somewhat of a connection with, or especially somebody that you have had a previous stronger friendship with, and then it's kind of drifted apart, saying, hey, can we do a quick phone call just to catch up? Sometimes that can work really well. Or one thing that you can do is to try to give people little short phone calls during times when you really have nothing else going on. For instance, my sister will often, when she's doing errands, she might be in the car for 20 minutes. She gives me a call for 20 minutes. And we just do a quick little chat, a quick little update about our lives, but it's a way that we can help stay connected. And again, not everybody is necessarily going to welcome this idea, but you might ask somebody, hey, I often, I drive to work every day and I don't really have anything to do in the car. Would it be okay if I called you sometime? And if somebody says yes, then just having a brief phone call, or a longer phone call if you want, but just having a phone call, I I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes you can build a friendship just through the core social connection with somebody, just talking. And sometimes giving yourself permission to do that, to say, I don't need to have bells and whistles. I don't need to make it fancy. I just can express to somebody, hey, I'd like to get to know you better. You know, it's going to be a little bit hard for us to plan a thing together, but do you want to do a phone call? Again, not everybody's going to say yes to that, but the people that do say yes to that, those are probably folks that are interested in a connection with you. So that's what we got. We got 4 strategies for making initial connections with people without spending money, and then 3 strategies for taking advantage of that and actually deepening the friendship. Go ahead, give this stuff a try, and let me know how it goes. Also, if you're watching this and you're like, okay, this is nice, but I don't really know how to actually go to any of these things. I just feel too awkward. I've got another video for you that proves definitively that there's no such thing as awkward. So if you're worried that you're going to be awkward as you try these techniques, go watch that video, or maybe it's over here. I don't know where it appears, but that's okay because there's no such thing as awkward. Bye bye.